Long ago, there was a girl who attained a magic lamp. The genie confined within it promised to grant her 3 wishes, and once all the wishes come true, the genie will gain freedom. The girl asked if she can wish for absolutely anything, and the genie replied she can, as long as she doesn't ask for more wishes. The girl smiled, and her first wish was an immortal, ageless life. Her second wish was to accept endless riches. Meanwhile, the genie was thrilled that she was decisive with her wishes. Just one more and the genie will be free. However, there was a slight smile on the girl's face as her last wish was to have a new magic lamp made for her whenever her last wish is granted. The genie falls silent at the girl's ingenious wordplay. Without a choice, she acquiesced to the girl's wish, but then, as her last wish was granted, the girl looked for her new lamp. The genie laughed, letting her fall, while saying that all she demanded was a magic lamp for her. She pointed out that she never asked to be the first person to be given the lamp. The genie declared she'll send the lamp to those with strong desires. They'll use it, and afterward, it will fall into another's hands, all in a vicious cycle. Cruelly, the genie told the girl not to expect to ever come across the magic lamp made for her. Though the young girl's scheme failed, the story of the magic lamp doesn't end there. Elsewhere, a girl runs. She's being chased by a group of men. She's cornered and desperate when suddenly, a magic lamp manifests in front of her. She makes a wish, but it will come true in the most twisted way. The girl and those who wish upon the lamp become monsters who are tremendously powerful with an intense loathing against humans. Their presence brings an abyss of misery. However, when all hope seems lost, unprecedented warriors arise around the world. Their power is so immense that they can fight against the large monsters. They also have the ability to annihilate the flame of their soul. Known as Light Slayers, they can survive a difficult fight against monsters and emerge victorious. One such Light Slayer approaches the defeated monster, planning to slay the fire of their soul, but then, his eyes widen as before him the monster turns into a girl. His eyes immediately drift toward her big blue tail. Later that night, the girl slowly awakens. She gets up, yawning, while behind her, her tail perks up. She's confused as she wriggles it, and finally, she becomes shocked upon noticing its presence. She sways her tail, bewildered why she has one. She exclaims that it's indeed a part of her as she can feel her hand stroking it. Suddenly, a man perched on a branch speaks up, saying it's the lasting aftermath of demonification. The girl asks him who he is, and he introduces himself as Earl, the Light Slayer who rescued her. The girl reveals that her name is Gina and says she's an Earthling, to which Earl says he is too. She apologizes, saying she can't remember a thing outside her name. Deeming she has amnesia, Earl tells her what happened. After becoming a monster, Earl then defeated her. As he's there in the wild, no one else knows about this. He then tells her she may revert into a monster at any moment. He then says, as a Light Slayer, he's responsible for purging monsters. Gina becomes scared, backing away as she asks him if he plans to kill her. He tells her he wouldn't have waited for her to wake up if he did. After rummaging in his pocket, he kneels, saying he has something important to say. With a rose in hand, he confesses his feelings before asking her to go out with him. She blushes, stunned. He reveals that he fell in love with her at first sight, and that his heart was instantly stolen upon seeing her. He states his mind is filled with nothing but her. Brows furrowing, she says she feels his sincerity, but she asks why he's saying all these sweet words to her tail. He exclaims he can't help it as her tail is too captivating, much to her shock. He gushes that it's the perfect size, saying it has flawless curves, a plump base, and dainty tips. Errol is in tears, declaring that her tail is mankind's holy grail. She asks him if he's lost his mind and tells him to see a doctor for his perverseness. He says it isn't a perversion. Like how some guys prefer a girl's chest or bottom, all he likes are girls with big tails. He understands that she doubts him and his love for big tails, and she responds she merely thinks his fetish is immature. Saying he has no choice but to prove his love, he takes his pants off, but Gina tells him to put them back on. She tells him he doesn't need to prove anything, that she gets he's a total perv. Innocently, she asks him for a dagger, which he willingly gives as he asks her what she needs it for. She yells she'd rather cut her tail off than have him defile her. Horrified, he screams no. Errol implores her not to be reckless while she yells for him to stop grabbing her. He grabs her wrist while she declares that there's no use having a tail. He tells her that because of her tail, she's gained his love, but she only asks him what use his love is. He begins listing off the benefits of being with him, such as access to food, money, and housing, while all she needs to do is care for her tail. He also tells her that even if she slashes her tail, she's not safe from other light slayers as she's been demonified. With him around, he won't let anyone harm her. He'd also help restore her memories. He promises from then on, he will love her alone, and for her tail, he'll fight the world. The knife lands on the ground before she slaps Errol with her new appendage. She turns away, asking how can a man be that desperate for a tail. She looks at him, pouting, and says she'll consider his proposal. Errol clutches his cheek, while she asks him why he's silent. She worriedly looks at him, but then he exclaims that her whipping his face with her tail is incredible, to which she calls him hopeless. The next day, Errol announces that they should enter the town while there aren't many people around. However, they first need to deal with Gina's tail. Errol curses, frustrated that they have to hide something so beautiful. He then says he has come up with the perfect plan to guarantee an easy entry, while she gets a bad feeling about it. At Westa City Gate, the soldiers call for the next person to enter the gates. Errol appears, whom the guard warmly greets. He asks the Light Slayer who's the person behind him, and Gina steps forward while Errol introduces her as his pregnant wife. To her embarrassment, the guard claims that Errol has gotten himself hitched. Unbeknownst to him, inside Gina's clothing is her large tail tucked away. As the guard finds her belly too large for a 2-month pregnancy, she lies about having multiple births. When the guard still insists her belly is too large, Errol declares that she's carrying a 7-fold birth, which shocks the guard. The Light Slayer then claims that he's already decided the baby's names as number 1, 2, 3, and so on. Meanwhile, Gina just wants everything to be over already. The guard then reveals some scoundrels have been smuggling by feigning pregnancy, that's why they're strict. But then he suddenly laughs, saying there's no need for inspection as he trusts Errol. Gina comments that his trust in Errol is strong, and the guard only has praises for the Light Slayer, before saying she's blessed to have married him. Silently, she observes Errol, realizing that he's handsome even though he's a pervert. She reflects on what kind of person he is, realizing he's decent as he did nothing untoward to her. She also recalls how he promised to protect her. The guard then bids them goodbye, and with a smile, she tells Errol that they should head home, making sure to keep up the act. Suddenly, someone is coming toward them, saying her darling is finally back. Seeing that she's a well-endowed woman, Gina freezes. The green-haired woman forcefully glances Errol, saying she missed him dearly. She rubs herself on him, while he replies that he's only gone for a day. As he's back, she asks him if he wants to have dinner or a bath first, or better yet, perhaps he wants to pay her his rent first. Errol gets pissed off and pushes her face away, telling her to stop calling him her darling. He reminds her that he just paid his whole year's rent to her before he left. She says she'll just take next year's rent then, and after that, she'll take next year's. Behind him, Gina chuckles menacingly, saying all along Errol has a beautiful madam waiting for him to return home. With a sweet smile, she asks him if he has something to say for himself, and he begs her to hear him out. The woman asks Gina what's her relationship with Errol, and the girl answers that the woman should introduce herself first. The tall woman asks her whose child she's carrying, and out of nowhere, the guard from before answers Gina is carrying Errol's 7 kids. The green-haired woman is shocked, saying he used her money to provide for another woman. She explains to an annoyed Errol that his money will become hers as rent eventually, and since he impregnated her 7 times, she wants to charge him 9 times the rent, but he only tells her to beat it. Later, at his apartment, Errol introduces his landlady as Zola, Westa's strongest alchemist. He then informs Gina that he has no interest in mixed-bag women like her, which offends Zola. She then says she's merely confident in her figure, saying she's a total jackpot. When Errol states that it's better if she could put all that meat of hers into a big tail, Zola comments that he'd already found himself a big-tailed woman. He then changes the subject, saying he needs her to deal with her tail problem. Zola pulls out her newly researched invisibility potion. She tells them that applying it on the tail will induce sensory obstruction. However, Errol says they can't take the potion as it has a side effect, making Gina curious. He reveals that using the potion will make her tail invisible through and through, which means, like the others, he also won't be able to see her tail. Errol instructs Zola to make another potion within the day. She's to make it so that only he can see Gina's tail. The alchemist gets mad, telling him not to go overboard, but when he tosses her a hefty bag of gold coins, saying he can give her more after she makes the potion, she becomes subservient, saying she'll do whatever he wants. Afterwards, Zola says it's possible to make the potion he wanted, but they lack one ingredient. The herb called ghost spirit grass isn't something they can buy too. Gina listens, alarmed, as Zola says it grows near a marsh where a monster has been spotted nearby. Harold says he can get them. Zola instructs him to get as many as he can, and he tells her to take care of Gina in exchange. When he's about to leave, the tailed girl tells him to wait. Shyly, while her tail sways around, she wishes him safe travels and says she'll be waiting for him to return. Earl is stunned, before saying they sound like a married couple, but she only tells leave soon. Later, at the murky marsh, Errol easily spots the herb that Zola was referring to. Errol is collecting herbs when there's suddenly a quake. There are crashes and rumbles, but Errol remains unfazed at the ugly, gigantic monster who snarls at him. Meanwhile, Zola asks her if she's worried for Earl, and Gina lies that she isn't. As the flames surround Errol in the forest, the alchemist assures her he won't die easily. After all, he's the world's third strongest light slayer. While the monster reverts to human, the light slayer is thankful that he managed to save one ghost spirit grass from being burned. He's about to use his mystic arts to slay the flames of her soul when he calls out, demanding that whoever's hiding come out. He hears someone clapping, and it's from a woman, saying he truly lives up to his name. Smiling, she goes straight to the point and asks him to hand the ghoul over to her. Earl asks her who she is, saying he didn't expect a kidnapper would be this audacious. The woman replies that she isn't the kidnapper and introduces herself as Charina, the president of the Fire Guard Corps. This stuns him, and he says he's heard of them before. He says they're the ones who believe in giving ghouls a chance, using any means to snatch them away. He knows how their actions landed them on the Light Slayer's blacklist. She claims it's not kidnapping, but salvation. Without them, ghouls would die in Light Slayer's hands. She also reveals that they help them control their urges, so they don't become monsters again. She claims that not all ghouls revert to monsters. Some live normal lives post-rehab. She asks for the girl again, but Errol refuses, saying they've turned a blind eye to them, but they will never stand to have a kidnapping happen right before their eyes. He says he knows she has accomplices hidden in the woods. Charina exclaims that they're not looking for a fight. She says they save souls, not kill them, and believes it to be a better way. Errol tells her she's mistaken, surprising her. He frankly states that he doesn't care about their chances, saying to demonify is sinful. He declares he will never show mercy to a ghoul, which is the absolute principle that Light Slayers live by. Charina snorts before bursting out in laughter as he gave such a standard answer. When he tells her they're done talking, she states he must be anxious to get home. With a sly smile, she tells him it's no surprise since his beloved Gina is waiting for him to return home. Errol drops his lantern, and in the next moment he's right behind her, his hand dangerously close to her neck, asking menacingly how she knew. Charina is stunned at how fast he moved. Nervous, she tells him that, as he should know, demonification has an aftermath. Every ghoul will retain some trait from their monster form, like scales, pointed ears, or in Gina's case, an inhuman body part. As for Charina, her trait is the pair of demon eyes that see into the past. Through her eyes, she can glimpse into someone's past 72 hours. She threatens him, asking what the headquarters would think if they're made aware of what he'd done, and if he kills her, he won't be able to catch her many comrades who are already been informed. Errol clicks his mouth, telling her to take the girl as he only came to collect herbs anyway. Seeing that he can be reasonable, Charina tells him she has a proposal. She asks him to join their Fire Guard Corps. She's asking because he'll be better off protecting Gina if he joins them, but he says there's no need. She calls him a stubborn guy, saying she will now use her trump card. She raises her shirt, saying it's her first time doing it, which alarms Earl, who asks her what she's doing. She replies she's only going to give him a peek. She wants to let him know that she too has the thing he loves the most, a tail. Inwardly, Charina chuckles evilly, knowing that Earl loves tails. She wants him to declare his love for her as well. The Light Slayer pauses, his eyes darkening, before he gets royally pissed at her. She tries to seduce him by wagging her tail, saying it's what he loves the most. Errol bellows that he doesn't just like any tail. He likes big ones. When she asks if there's a difference, he yells there is. Some are small and round, others big and furry, while some are thin and long. As he said, what he likes are the big ones. He says that if he's to liken tails to breasts, then she'd be flat-chested. He tells her that she's 800 years too early to seduce him, which pisses her off. She pouts, telling him to forget it as she pulls down her shirt. Charina states she'll be taking the girl and promises they won't talk about Gina. When she offers that they can come to her if they need help, Earl says there's no need. As he walks away, Charina yells that she won't give up and declares that one day he'll join the Fire Guard Corps. When he's gone, she droops as she'd been sincere in her invitation. With her hands clenched, she sincerely hopes that they'll meet again. Later, Zola can be heard celebrating that the potion is done. Gina is amazed that her tail turned invisible. When Earl is asked what he sees after taking a pill, he becomes thrilled as he can see Gina's tail perfectly. Zola informs them that the potion and revelation pills only last for a week, so they'll have to buy more. Earl suspects that she shortened the duration of the potion and pills so she'll earn more money, but she denies it. He says, since the tail issue is resolved, they can now go shop for Gina's clothes.